Yes, good morning. We are live. This is the Armoury TV. Today we're going to be talking about who is Sergio Gomez and more on Zinchenko, as it's looking likely that the deal might actually go through. All that and more just after this. The Armoury TV, and today we have a couple. Well, there's a few things going on this morning. Firstly, Armoury Hutchinson is set to join Chelsea. Bit of a surprise, that one. That's kind of come out of nowhere. And there was another one. It's Austin Trusty is on his way to Birmingham on loan, which for me, I think that's a very good move. He experienced some of the game in England, and it would help in his development, in my opinion. So I am all for that. Onto the title of this stream, Sergio Gomez. And who is Sergio Gomez? Right. So let's have a look into his profile. He does play for Anderlecht. He's a Spanish under-21 international. He is left-footed, plays along the left-hand side. Basically, he is the backup to say if the Zinchenko deal did not go through. I mean, you look at that heat map there; that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's. I mean, I've sat there last night and I watched some of his. I know YouTube videos make players look like prime Roberto Carlos and and things like that, but his crossing range is fantastic. What I saw, he's low, high, it's very precise. Look, he's a left back, and he picked up 11 assists and creating 15 big chances. Not clean sheets, but he does his defensive duties quite well. Interceptions per game is at 1.3, tackles per game 1.5. Like I said, he can cross the ball, he can dart up and down the pitch. He's also scored 6 goals as well, so he can score goals. He takes free kicks; he's very good at them. And yeah, I think I was going to go deeper into this, to be honest, but today, because of the news that's been going around this morning, it looks like Zinchenko. It looks like it's going to be him that does come to Arsenal. But I just wanted to touch it because it could fall through, and we could go back to this one. We could explore. Transfer markets have got him valued at around 9 million euros, and I reckon if he was to leave Anderlecht, and how important he was for Anderlecht, he had most assists and whatnot for Anderlecht. They would obviously ask for a bit more than that. But for backup for Kieran Tierney, I mean, you couldn't really go wrong. However, there is a question of course, his age. Obviously, being 21 years of age, only having the one season over there in Belgium, would he be able to adjust to life in England and the Premier League that quickly? Obviously being from Spain beforehand. So I think it would be a risk. Looks a good profile. Very, very promising. A lot of potential there. Based on one season, I want to see a bit more before we do maybe go for a player like this. Maybe this is someone we can keep an eye on. He'll probably end up staying there. If we do get Zinchenko, and then say if Tierney was to go and move elsewhere later on, we can always go back and explore and see how he does from there. And that's I think I'm going to leave that on the Sergio Gomez, because I do have a special guest with me this morning, and obviously with the news of Zinchenko kind of picking up pace. So I brought along FTB Sports, Manchester City resident, the main roader himself, Mr. Ian Shaw. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Foxy. Thanks for inviting me on the show to talk about the yin and yang, I'd say, that you might sign from Man City. The positive and negatives about Zinchenko and Jesus and their collective worth.
No, it's actually a pleasure. I mean, it's great to have a rival fan's perspective. Not I mean, I say rival, but obviously the players coming from your team to our team gives us a little bit more, inside, if you like. You go to games, of course, so you see a lot more than what we do. And so let's just go straight into it. So Zinchenko, what would he offer Arsenal?
Okay, well, I think firstly, I always have a fondness for where Man City ex-players and managers go. So apologies to all those Spurs fans out there, but I'm a an Arteta fan. I'm a big Arteta fan. So when Spurs are going head to head with Arsenal for that fourth place, I'm backing Arsenal. I want Arsenal to do well. In the same way, I watch our Nigel Clough at Mansfield, and I always want them to do well. Our Joey at Bristol Rovers, delighted. So you take an interest in where those ex-players or ex-managers have gone, and you still have a fondness that kind of follows down the line. I want to talk firstly on two global subjects. The first one is, and it's maybe a challenge to people out there watching or listening, and think about when you're a young player and you're defined as a versatile. I can't really think any who've made the grade, going through. If you think about people who've become versatile, they're often defined in their position for years and years and years, then drop back into another role. So, for example, James Milner, you'd say he's versatile for Liverpool. Yeah, but hang on, he's had more than a decade at top level, or maybe even 15 years playing midfield before he's developed that fullback capability. Ashley Young would be another example of that. Even, dare I mention, Eric Dyer at Spurs, who was a midfielder who became an adopted versatile player. When you're a young player and you set out yourself as a versatile, it never seems to work. I mean, Maitland-Niles, I thought Arsenal was going to be a world beater. He then got this tag. It's almost like the kiss of death as a versatile player. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out when you sign versatile players. The second is that let's take the names out of the frame. But to have two players who've worked for Pep Guardiola since they were kids, really, in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, there is a global benefit to that, because Pep usually only signs players, good boys who'll do as they're told. Like, having Messi and Iniesta and Xavi from very, very early age. He drills and drills. He almost brainwashes them into the Pep way of playing, the quick pass, and he also doesn't want players who are naughty boys. What he's going to do with Jack Grealish, I don't know. But apart from Jack Grealish, if you think about it, they're always good guys, good for the team, don't talk out in public, not seen on the beer, positive in the dressing room. And both Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko are absolute advocates of that. They are nice guys. They're great team players. Do anything you ask of them. They're not going to grumble on the bench. They're going to be positive back of house. And all those skills that have been drilled into them, that quick passing football, it's almost like Arteta looks at those two and says, shit, this could save me a year's work of development because they're already going to play the way I want them to play. So even though you might get two players from City, to an extent, the catalyst for the rest of the team might be worth 3 or 4 players that you never see. Before going to Zinchenko in depth, just a little bit of a positive word for Gabriel Jesus. I think he's a bloody good player. He's a fantastic player. He's got a wonderful first touch, a great turn. And if he stays fit, I think he'll do everything Arsenal want him to do. And really, he's got a few more years in the tank than you think, because he hasn't played that much. So he's not got that many miles on the clock. And the influence he gets from Brazil, and he teaches him more new things, etc. So I think in Gabriel Jesus, he's a great player. I have no doubt that he will serve Arsenal really, really well. There's a butt coming in. I have severe doubts about Zinchenko. My brother and I watch City all the time, and we put our head in our hands when we see Zinchenko on the team sheet at left back. He is so susceptible to the ball over the top. It's almost predictable every game. The amount of mistakes he makes running back. He is as I repeat, he is no James Milner. There is no Ashley Young. There is no muscularity about him. He doesn't read the game as well as maybe a seasoned midfielder dropping into those roles, watching who will move outside. He lacks that physicality, and he doesn't read the game very well going back. However, when you watch him for Ukraine, and when he takes a place, often as a sub, on left midfield, he looks lots more effective. He has got a lovely touch. his quick passing, his team ability. He puts his head up. He looks through ball. He's a kind of poor man's De Bruyne going down that flank.
Right.
But I think it's deceptive. Everyone talks about that last game of the season and how he was one of the players who won it against Villa. But you have to remember, he was so fresh. He'd hardly played, even though he wanted to play. He had a bit of an anger in his boots because of what happened in his country. And also, the Villa players must have been knackered at that stage. So, everyone talks, he cut down the left, he put the ball across. Well, yeah, but I haven't seen that so often. I have a question mark. £35 million for a player who may hop in and out of the team, cover a left midfield, cover left back. I think that's a lot of brass. 35 million buys you a proper left back. And just to finish up on that, Tony, before I kick in, left back is such a very, very, very difficult position to fill. Man City know it more than ever before, and a little bit of a funny one for you. I don't think we've had a decent left back there for 4, 5, 6 years. When we obviously we thought we'd sign the god of left backs in Mendy. He looked like a world beater, and gee, what the heck's happened there? So City have really, really struggled at that position. I hope and they use the money to sign Cucurella. And it'll be interesting. You add a little bit more and you get, a 22-year-old, possibly one of the potentially best left backs in the world for the Zinchenko money. And the funny story was, I was watching the Ladies Euros the other night, and England beat Norway 8-0, and 6 of the goals came the right-hand side. So, we're both geeks of the game. So I go online and have a look. Who the heck's playing left back for Norway, who's so goddamn hopeless? And she plays for Man City.
Yeah.
It had to be. It had to be. So that's my summary. I'm not certain about Zinchenko. I'm really not.
Okay. I think what we're looking at there. I think the reason why we are looking at Zinchenko is he obviously does offer a little bit of versatility, as we've been touching on, and he can play in midfield, and he does that well for Ukraine, and we've seen it. I think it's just more of the case of we need to find a suitable backup for Kieran Tierney, who's going to miss games because he's always, he's made of glass at the end of the day. Arteta's like, right, okay, I've worked with this guy. I can work with him even more. He'll listen to me. So maybe that might help him. I don't know. Obviously, Tierney there can help him. Obviously, we were prepared to spend 40 million on Martinez, who was going to be, who's now going to Man United. He was only going to be a backup, and is he really a left back? So I know what you're saying about the left backs. They're very hard to come by, especially very good ones. And maybe we might still go in for this Sergio Gomez. I don't know, who looks a proper left back, but based on one season and how young he is, you don't want to pin all your hopes on him. So I think he's going for the experience of, he's been in a winning team. Man City win trophies under a manager like Pep Guardiola. And, he's still quite young. He's 24, 25?
25.
So he still has plenty of time to grow, I think. I think it's the whole Premier League experience thing that helps, because we brought in Tavares last season from Benfica. Didn't really do great at all. He had some really, really poor games. He's now going to go off and lane so he can get some more minutes under his belt, because he's still only about 2021 himself. So I think that's the main reason why we are looking at Zinchenko, because we're not going to get Cucurella because you're going to get him. And is there any other left backs that we can bring in straight away when Tierney does go down? So that's my.
Didn't Brentford sign the young Scottish lad at left back who was playing out in France? In Italy. Yeah. And I think they paid less than 20 for him, which I thought was interesting. And he's a specialist left back and young. I just think there's a better way of spending 35 million quid. I mean, I would be delirious if you take him for 35 million quid, but 35 gets you a very good specialist left back. And Tavares, I think it's great to see him go out on loan. I watched him, and at times I thought he was a world beat. He's like a wild horse.
Oh, the potential there. Yeah.
The potential is incredible, but he's always played left back. And I think there's just a danger of bringing on a player. Oh, you're going to play left midfield for the last 20 minutes. You're going to play left back because Tierney's injured. You've got to be a specialist. in the Premier League, fighting for a European place or cut trophies or whatever, you've got to be a specialist in that role. To bring a versatile player in, I think is, and I would take the Ukraine bit out of the equation because, he plays well for Ukraine. Against whom? In qualifiers? Against some dodgy dudes in countries with like less than 5 million people? Yeah, you and I would. I'd take that out of the equation. It's never on the world stage with Ukraine, is it?
No, it's true. It's true.
I would be worried. I'd be pleased for Man City, £35 million. That's the lion's share of Cucurella. Add 10. I think that you've got to. I would have rather. I think Arteta's buying him because he's going to be another catalyst in the dressing room to bring down the time it takes to get the culture across the rest of the players. And he's a very bright guy, Arteta, and it may well be that that's more of the reason than just a player.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Aaron Hickey, and there was obviously whispers that we were going to go in for him. And I think again, that's like Sergio Gomez. It's a case of he's still very, very young, coming from a different league. I know he comes from Scotland, but coming from the Serie A into the Premier League, and I think Brentford's a great move for him. I think because that will help his game if he wants to stay in the Premier League. Most Scottish players do like to play in the Premier League, so I think that would have been a risk. I think it would have worked well, seeing as that Tierney's Scottish as well, and they both play in the same position. Would have made a bit more sense, maybe, but yeah, I do understand why we didn't really go in for him. Obviously, there was links to him. Whether we actually went in for him is obviously a different matter. But I just think that, like I said before, the whole Zinchenko thing is about Arteta. He's only going to be back up at left back. But then we've got the whole 5-sub thing as well. So if we have problems in midfield, he can go and cover in midfield. He's not going to be starting every game. I don't expect him to be starting every game. We've still got links to Paqueta, which I really hope we get done. He's the kind of player I want to see come in midfield in that particular position in midfield. So yeah, I understand the question marks on 35 million on backups, but I think it's just the way the market is these days. Especially when you want to buy from the Premier League.
I wonder where, if you're a spy at training, I mean, every time he goes away for Ukraine, he doesn't play fullback. He plays midfield, so he's practicing with Ukraine to play midfield all the time. I wonder where he practices in training. I wonder if he, you look at Robertson at Liverpool, etc., and he would have been professing his art at left back since he was probably 12. Yeah, all those. Tierney would have been the same. You drum and you drill and you discipline and you watch videos of the greatest in the world all the time of perfecting your skill at left back. I wonder how much time. Where do you train at Arsenal for a specialist position? If you're Zinchenko, do you train midfield or do you train at left back? Do you join the midfielders for their fitness levels? Do you join the defensive team? I don't know, because sure as heck, when you come back from international duty, and let's say you've then spent 10 days, 2 weeks away, constantly playing midfield, and you've got to drop back into a left back position. It's almost like this repetitive muscle, this repetitive thinking. As I say, maybe it's a quiz one, you can come back to me, but what young players from 20 to 25 have been tagged versatile and made it?
You can't name a great deal, can you?
There's lots of midfielders who've played a decade and then dropped back into the fullback role or done that. It's just different. Yeah. And as I say, Maitland-Niles, I remember watching him in the early days, and I thought, boy, Arsenal have got themselves one. A new box-to-box player, a Vieira kind of player, and it all went.
You ask them to play somewhere, and they'll do it well. Yeah.
But I don't. And to be fair, I think Dyer's only just started to play quite well for Spurs. When he adopted to centre-back for the first couple of seasons, I thought he was shocking. I think only last season did he start to look solid. So it's taken him 3 years to move position.
Well, you got a defensive-minded manager, a manager like Conte who works on his defence. I think that's a massive help to him.
Yeah, but just because he can play ball, it doesn't mean that you've got to, at the top of the Premier League, you've got to be a professor in your art form of that position.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I understand that. Look, listen, at the end of the day, we've been linked with Zinchenko for some time now, even before this window. So Arteta's obviously seeing something in him that he can bring to the team. So, and you look at some of the signings that we made last season, like in the last summer window, and some of the signings that we made this window. Some of them have been questioned. People were like Tommy Who, and things like that. So I'm trusting them. This is what I'm doing. I'm trusting. They've obviously got their players that they're looking at. They're getting, and the one that hasn't really worked out was Tavares, but we actually seen potential in him, and we still can. So
I think he's got a lot of potential. Loan would be good for him. I wouldn't give up on him. He's a real athlete.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think the players that we're going in for, there's a reason why we're going in for them, and they're going to offer us something. And I'm trusting, I'm trusting this process at the moment. And because from what I've seen,
keep trusting it. I ultimately hope that Arteta is the successor to Pep when he hangs his clipboard up at City.
But no, this it's been. I think you're due to come off, aren't you, soon? So
yeah,
we it's an interesting conversation. I think it'll lead for an interesting debate. If you are watching this, give us your thoughts in the comments and see if you agree with Ian or me, or if you've got your own opinion. Please put them in there. We'll get back to you. But it's Ian. It's great to have a Man City fan's perspective. Just before you do go, what expectations do you have for on Arsenal this season coming?
Yeah, I think they've got to try and sneak into the top four. I know everyone's taking the piss out of United, but I think their manager is strong, very, very strong and disciplined. That third or fourth place will be more competitive this season than next. Liverpool, City, Chelsea, I think will stride forward more. Hate to tell you guys, but Conte does know what he's doing. He's bought some bloody good players. He's really put some strength into that Spurs team. So, you've got 4 tremendous clubs there to try to nick, or 5. You got City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs. That's 5 really, really strong team. You've got to muscle 2 out of that 5. That would be no easy gig.
Yeah, I honestly think that we need to push in this Europa League. Because if all fails in the league, and like you said, the league's going to be really competitive this season.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the Europa League. It's such a kiss of death. It puts you at risk for the weekend.
It is. It really is. But it's way into the Champions League.
It was a double whammy to you not getting that 4th place. There's a double whammy. However, let's finish on a positive. Zinchenko is an ideal player to play in the Europa League against some of those weaker teams and rest Tierney and preserve him for the Premier League. And maybe even Martinelli or other left-sided players. So maybe that's the strategy. Let's play Zinchenko all the way through that Europa League. Let's let him play through the League Cups, early rounds of the FA Cup, as long as we don't get away to someone difficult. Maybe that's the strategy.
And that's just it, because before the World Cup, there's going to be so many games. So, I get that. I really do. Obviously, my thoughts on Man City, I think you're going to win the league.
There's a lot of new players to gel. And of all the clubs that City have had, possibly with the exception of Bayern Munich, I cannot remember Pep ever galvanising a team around a forward like Haaland. And
it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, adapting without Sterling. Jesus, less so, because I think we've got the cover. Jesus, Zinchenko, forget it. If you can sign a really good left back, and if there's going to have to be some changes in style, so I don't think it's nailed on at all. But I think we should give a pretty good account.
Yeah, I think Liverpool might miss a bit of Mane, so I think that it kind of balances it out. You've lost Sterling, they've lost Mane. Kind of similar, if you like.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's going to be a good season nonetheless coming up. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have you back on soon.
Yeah, anytime, sir.
Especially when we go head to head. But listen, thank you for joining. Thank you very much. And for people watching, if you want, I'm telling you what, I'm all over the place. It's this heat. But please do like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Ian's gone now. Bit of a short one today. Just wanted to have a little word on Sergio Gomez and talk about Zinchenko and some of the couple of outs. But listen, Canas will be back tomorrow. So watch out for that. I'm not quite sure what time, but we'll let you know on the socials. But I have been Mr. Silver Fox, and I'm going to go out and enjoy the sunshine now. Have a good day.